Section 3. Safety before elevating aerial lifts. In this section we'll cover guidelines to be followed by operators, operators' responsibility towards fall protection, guidelines for equipment inspection, guidelines for work area inspection, guidelines for setting up vehicles. Trained and authorized operators. Only trained and authorized employees may operate equipment with aerial lifts. Authorized operators must read and understand the manufacturer's manual for the specific equipment to be operated. Operators must pay particular attention to operating instructions and safety rules. Operator trainees should receive hands-on training from a qualified person who has experience using this specific equipment to be operated and can judge the trainee's proficiency using the equipment. Operators must be trained to inspect the equipment and work area before each use. They must know what to look for and what to do if they discover something that is not safe. Operators must also demonstrate that they can proficiently and safely operate the equipment, including following all safe work practices and safety rules. Tip for workers who work in aerial lifts or near them on the ground. Think about the training and proficiency requirements for aerial lift operators. Remember, you may only operate this equipment if you are trained and authorized. Operators' responsibility towards fall protection. Since the primary hazard associated with aerial lifts is falls, OSHA requires operators to wear fall protection harnesses. Here are some of the best practices concerning fall protection. Do make sure you are wearing a full-body harness before entering the lift. Use a lanyard attached to the boom or lift when working from inside the lift. Inspect both harness and lanyard before each use. Make sure you wear the harness and attach the lanyard properly. Keep the lanyard short enough to prevent a worker from climbing out of the lift. Here are some don'ts concerning fall protection. Never attach belt to an adjacent pole structure or equipment. You could move the lift and forget to untie, which would leave you hanging from the adjacent pole, structure, or equipment as you are pulled out of the lift. Do not use belts as part of a personal fall arrest system in construction or in electric power generation, transmission, and distribution in general industry. However, belts can be used as a restraint device. Guidelines for equipment inspection. Aerial lift equipment must be inspected before each use. Look for defects such as cracked welds, hydraulic leaks, damaged control cables, loose wire connections, tire damage. Check electrically insulated items and make sure they are all there and in good condition. Perform a control check to make sure operating controls are all functioning correctly. Perform an operating test on the lift itself. Any potentially unsafe items discovered through inspection must be carefully examined, and a determination must be made by a qualified service person as to whether the problem constitutes a safety hazard. All unsafe items and conditions must be corrected before the aerial lift can be used. Tip for workers who work in aerial lifts or near them on the ground. Think about the inspection procedure you need to perform before using an aerial lift. Guidelines for work area inspection. After inspecting the equipment, you need to inspect the immediate work area for hazards that could result in an accident, such as a fall tip-over or electrocution. Check for any recent earth fills that may not have been properly compacted. If a tire or stabilizer is placed on the soft earth, the equipment may tip over when the boom is lifted or extended. Keep a safe distance from ditches, drop-offs, or holes to avoid accidentally driving into one which could cause a tip-over. If you use equipment too close to these areas, the side of a hole or ditch could give way under the weight of a tire or stabilizer. Watch for bumps and other floor obstructions. Be careful not to drive over these obstructions because they can impact stability. Look out for debris and other things such as grease or water that could result in loss of stability. Be especially careful of overhead obstructions and high-voltage conductors. Look for them and remember where they are. If there are any overhead obstructions, consider having a spotter on the ground who watches as the operator moves the aerial lift, and be sure the spotter has an effective way to communicate with the lift where they are. Guidelines for setting up vehicles. Once inspections are conducted, you need to make sure the vehicle is properly set up. Set the brakes so that the vehicle will not move while the lift is elevated. Place wheel chocks under the tires. Position the outriggers or stabilizers on a solid surface. Never move the truck when the boom is elevated with a worker in the lift, although some equipment is designed to be moved while the worker is in the lift. Never move the equipment unless the lift has been lowered and the boom has been retracted. Tip for workers who work in aerial lifts or near them on the ground. think about the safety precautions you must take when setting up the vehicle before using the aerial lift. Section Summary. Before using an aerial lift, make sure you perform a required inspection, put on a personal fall arrest system and attach the lanyard correctly. Take care not to overload the lift. Stand the vehicle on a solid surface. Designate an employee to watch and warn you of hazards.